Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad, Tehami. Let's talk about a relationship that has been dubbed as taller than the mountains, deeper than the oceans and sweeter than honey. Pakistan-China friendship has stood the test of time. Both the countries have cooperated over the number of years in diverse fields, and over the years, due to high-level exchanges in the people-to-people contacts and the economic cooperation between the two countries, this relationship has strengthened. Now, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is going to head towards China from the 1st of November to the 2nd of November on a two-day official visit to China on the invitation of the Chinese Premier, Mr. Li Keqiang. And he'll definitely be meeting President Xi Jinping. Also, he'll be having delegation-level talks with Premier Mr. Li Keqiang. He is also accompanied by a high-level delegation, including the Foreign Minister, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. And in his op-ed in China's Global Times, Prime Minister used the words of longevity, love and trust to describe the ties, saying there is no relationship like ours which so deeply touches the soul of our people and evokes strong emotions. Likewise, it has been reciprocated by the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Mr. Yao Lijian, who says China looks forward to the visit and hopes to further advancing high-level strategic cooperation and bringing more fruitful outcomes from our relationship for the benefit of our two peoples. Now, Pakistan's relationship with China remains to be the cornerstone of the Pakistan's foreign policy. Will be joined by an esteemed panel of guests to talk about Pakistan-China relationship. Let's watch this package by our production team.
In the realm of successful diplomatic maneuvers of Premier Shehbaz Sharif and Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, through which the international arena is getting a quite clear idea that Pakistan is a staunch advocate of mutually beneficial relations as well as global economic interdependence, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is visiting China on 1st and 2nd November at the invitation of Chinese Premier of State Council. In this visit, the Prime Minister will be accompanying a high-level delegation. Prime Minister will be among the first leaders to visit China following the historic 20th National Congress of Communist Party of China. The visit is also expected to advance the wide-ranging bilateral cooperation agenda with the conclusion of a number of MOUs and agreements. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Yao Lijian, during his briefing, warmly welcomed Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and said,
"We highly appreciate Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's remarks. We believe they show the importance he attaches to the visit to China, the high quality of China-Pakistan relations and deep friendship between our two peoples. No matter how the international or domestic situations have evolved, China-Pakistan friendship has been carried on from generation to generation."
On the other hand, while highlighting the importance of China-Pakistan economic corridor, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Yao Lijian said,
CPEC has become a landmark of China-Pakistan cooperation. It has boosted economic development, improved people's livelihood, and generated positive socio-economic effects in Pakistan. Recently, the 11th meeting of the Joint Cooperation Committee of CPEC has successfully been held. Multiple common understandings were reached about future development of CPEC.
Meanwhile, Chinese ambassador to Pakistan, Nong Rong, called on Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in Islamabad, in which both sides discussed Prime Minister's upcoming visit to China and agreed that this will further strengthen trade and economic cooperation between the two countries. On the other hand, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, while addressing the first steering committee meeting of the Pakistan-China business relationship, termed the China-Pakistan economic corridor a game-changer for development in Pakistan, with billions of dollars of investment already committed by Chinese company. In the realm of success.
Now, this particular visit by Pakistan's Prime Minister, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif, is looked upon by everyone here in Pakistan as well as in China. So there are a lot of expectations. According to the Foreign Office of Pakistan, this visit is also expected to advance the wide-ranging bilateral cooperation agenda with the conclusion of a number of MOUs and agreements in diverse areas and consolidate the momentum of CPEC cooperation in the wake of the CPEC Joint Cooperation Committee on 27th of October. Likewise, similar sort of comments coming from Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson that CPEC has become a landmark of China-Pakistan economic cooperation. It has boosted economic development, improved people's livelihoods, and generated positive socio-economic effects in Pakistan. We'll definitely discuss all these aspects vis-a-vis Pakistan-China relationship. For that, we are honored and privileged to be joined in the studio by Ms. Naela Chohan, former ambassador. Ms. Chohan, thank you very much for your time at Views on News. We really appreciate that. And we are also being joined in the studio by Mr. Faheem Sardar, Senior Policy Specialist, Strategic Policy Planning Cell. Mr. Sardar, thank you very much for your time, also for being on Views on News. Let's begin the discussion with you, Ms. Naela Chohan. So what's the significance of this particular visit by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, especially after the historic 20th Congress of the Communist Party of China and an unprecedented another term for the Chinese President Xi Jinping?
You said it yourself. This is an unprecedented occasion where immediately after the 20th Party Congress, our Prime Minister is going there. That itself spells out the significance that both China and Pakistan attach to this visit. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif would be one of the first leaders to visit China immediately after this. The others will follow also. And then, like Prime Minister said in his address to the Business and Investment Committee, that this is a game changer. They are looking for mutually beneficial economic and trade relations. We are expecting more investments from China. We are getting into the second phase of CPEC, and that too will have a further reinforcement of our mutually beneficial socio-economic and trade relations. So indeed, this is a very significant visit of the Prime Minister.
So in his op-ed, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif has said that there is no relationship like ours which so deeply touches the soul of our people and evokes such strong emotions. So this relationship transcends that very notion which is thought upon by certain quarters in the world, that it is based on the economic dimension, or it is related to that one solely.
You're very right. Especially the Western, hemisphere looks at China from a very different prism. Their perceptions of China are very different. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, we have a very strong, well-founded relationship which cannot be understood by them, by the West, because it's actually very deep and time-tested. There have been many occasions where China has stood by us, and there have been many occasions that Pakistan stood by China. So it is a time-tested, well-founded, strong relationship. The depth and the profundity of it is multifaceted. It cannot be expressed in words. You can feel it.
Right, Mr. Sardar, a number of MOUs and agreements are likely to be signed between the two sides during this very significant visit. In terms of economic cooperation, how efficiently both the countries have come so far?
Thank you. Firstly, I think I have to start off by saying that projects like CPEC and further projects that we're expecting, they're part of the Pakistan-China cooperation. They are not the only thing that we have
Right.
between us. So I just want to make that very clear. It's something that even the Chinese have spoken about many times. When we talk about economics, I think let's just take a step back and just look at common goals, common objectives, common desires. There are a few common things which bind China and Pakistan, one of which is peace in the region. And peace does not come by just talking about it. You have to firm up peace by using economics, terms, social harmony, and many other aspects. You sort of have to fuse them together to allow a region to prosper. Pakistan and China both have tried very hard to keep the peace in the region. If you look at, for example, CPEC is just one example, one big example of what Pakistan has been trying to do with China and what China has been trying to do with Pakistan. It is, as we all know, it's a flagship project of BRI. But at the end of the day, it is Pakistan that has been so keen to push it forward, and so has China. But what's the point? The point is just not economics alone. It's you have sociology ingrained with it. You have the merging of the region into a very safe, economically prosperous area. You have to bring every region into it. You cannot just have an exclusive project here. To the extent that even CPEC was offered to India through Pakistan, and directly through their Chinese Indo-Chinese roots, they refused. They don't want to be part of it. For adding to that is basically how we have cooperated on the military front, on the strategic front. When we talk about economics, you have to talk about security, and when you talk about security, you have to talk about economics. So Pakistan and China have been helping each other tremendously on this front, and of course, Pakistan has been, unfortunately, part of an open theater of conflict, a low-intensity conflict, which starting 2003 has been pretty severe. So China has always helped Pakistan. Pakistan, you see, economics cannot prosper where there is conflict. So
don't you think both the things are intertwined? Unless there is no economic prosperity in a certain region, the security is going to be at risk in that particular region, and likewise vice versa. If there is no peace or security in the region, the economy is going to be disturbed as well at the same time.
Absolutely, and Pakistan has done a fabulous job. Let's be very frank here in stabilizing itself and the region. When we look at the Pakistan-China relationship, we have to take a slightly broader view as well, because Afghanistan is part of it. Even India is part of it. This area does not need any more conflict. There are 3 nuclear-armed nations that are neighbors. They must not allow any kind of destabilization to come.
That is exactly what has been expressed by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also in his op-ed, that the international landscape had undergone a profound transformation, and that was unprecedented in its scale and scope. At the same time, sadly, he says that it is happening when humanity continues to suffer from poverty, disease, and hunger. And then he alludes to the fact that the thing which is often said and spoken by President Xi Jinping of global solidarity and global action for the larger interest of the humanity. Your take, sir.
The largest interest of humanity is a relevant point because most of the humans live in this area. So, I mean, when you just look at this, if you just create a circle, so to speak, I mean, you've got most of humanity living in this area with 1.3 billion in India. You've got 1.3 in China, roughly. You've got Pakistan, Bangladesh combined. I mean, if you just add the numbers are staggering. So this area cannot afford destabilization. So what do you do? What you do is you cooperate. You work towards economics. And as, for example, in Europe, they were constantly at civil war with each other. The families were fighting each other. What did they do? They were always fighting over coal and steel. So what they did was they figured that out first. That brought stability into that area, which brought peace into their area at least. So when it comes to economics, I will of course talk about security, which is that both go hand in hand, and both sort of feed each other, and both have to feed each other. Economics has to build security, security has to build economics. I think China and Pakistan both are very clear on this issue.
Right, Ms. Chohan, when we talk about Pakistan's friendship with China and inform a strategic partnership over the number of years, now given these challenges, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says the importance and the significance of this relationship has increased manifold also.
Yes, indeed. And now if you look at it in a bigger picture, you spoke of, inclusiveness. And Pakistan-China partnership is inclusive. When you talk about larger humanity, it's not just the region. because BRI goes very far. It's not limited to the region. So it is really involving the general humanity, and in that the vision of Pakistan and vision of China merge when it comes to inclusiveness, when it comes to sharing benefit. And Pakistan has so much to learn from China, because if you look at the Chinese achievements, how they did poverty alleviation, that is such a incredible achievement. And we are also, given that we are one of the vulnerable countries in climate change, the recent floods have caused such devastation in your infrastructure, in your economy. China was one country that gave the largest support in helping us address the issue. And China also was known to be one of the most polluting countries, and yet they have the largest achievement in green economy. So that is an experience that we want to learn also, that we become eco-friendly, green economy, then their technology, AIs, there are so many fields. And when you talk about security, it's not just defense, it's about food security, it's about human security, it's about economic security, it's in all fields. And that cannot happen until you have a well integrated cooperation which has which is more holistic in its approach. It's not just economy that we are talking about, it's not just about investment, it's about the whole package, and how Pakistan and China are willing to work together for this bigger picture in which humanity will be benefited, not just our two countries.
So when we specifically talk about, as far as the geopolitical landscape of the major powers view is concerned regarding that, now Pakistan has maintained good relations with the US. We recently saw there was a thaw in the relationship after a little bit of bumpy phase after the Afghan Taliban takeover of Kabul. Then there were we saw there were high-level exchanges between the top officials of the two countries. Then came a statement by US President Mr. Joe Biden, which actually garnered a huge and very strong response from Pakistan's side. Now, at the very same time, many experts say that it becomes very challenging for the diplomats in Pakistan to maintain that very fine balance between their relationship towards the US as well as China, because it is very much clear that there is a huge economic rivalry between China and the US, and US has been going for those policies, especially in order to contain China.
You must, understand that even US-China relationship is not that simple. China is one of the biggest investors in USA. US economy depends on China also. So when we talk about rivalry, we should understand the dynamics. You talk about Quad, you talk about AUKUS, you talk about all these regional pacts that the United States has done with a few of the countries in the region, basically containing China in South China Sea. But as far as our relations with China and USA are concerned, Pakistan was a bridge in developing linkages between China and the United States. We don't have to be a balancer. They balance themselves because United States also knows its limits on how far it can really confront China, and China also knows its weight. So they can balance each other. We don't have to worry about that. Our relations with the United States are independent of our relations with China, and our relations with China are independent of our relations with United States.
Right. Ms. Naela, we are now joined also by Dr. Talat Shabbir. He is Director, China-Pakistan Studies Center, Institute of Strategic Studies in Islamabad. He's joining us on the phone line. Dr. Shabbir, thank you very much for your time, for being on Views on News. Now, this is really a significant visit by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. He'll be there in China for 2 days, and he'll be having high-level delegation-level talks with Premier Li Keqiang. Also will meet President Xi Jinping. He has expressed high hopes out of this particular visit. How significant do you think this particular visit is, and what likely outcomes do you think we should expect out of it?
Thank you very much, Jawad, for having me over for this very important topic of today. Of course, when our Prime Minister is going to China, it's a very important moment for China, because the 20th Congress of Communist Party has recently elected President Xi Jinping for third term. So this is something that unprecedented taken place in China, and I think there is a moment of jubilation and there is a moment of celebration for Chinese at the moment. Now, coming back to the Prime Minister's visit, I think there are two things that are very important. One is the China-Pakistan economic corridor, because China as well as Pakistan would wish to push forward all the projects that we envisaged under the umbrella of CPEC, and now we expect that we must push forward when Xi Jinping is all-powerful leader of China. And of course, there's a need for Pakistan to bring CPEC into a fold whereby it contributes to our economy, which is much needed. Secondly, I think there are going to be few agreements signed between both the countries on CPEC. And secondly, there is some kind of restructuring of loans also that is likely to be discussed during this visit, because I think nearly $6 billion of loan needs to be rescheduled, and Chinese have shown willingness to do that, and I think that will help. Third thing is that China is likely to extend help to Pakistan with regards to dealing with our economic woes that we have at the moment. And I think I'm very hopeful, I'm very optimistic with the visit of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to China, and I think many good news are likely to come.
Right, Dr. Talat Shabbir, when we talk about CPEC in particular, most of the time it is understood that it is going to help Pakistan out to improve its socio-economic development and improve the livelihoods over here. How does it help China's interests? What does China get out of CPEC? Does it only serve to the purposes of Pakistan's improvement of economy, or does it serve to China's interest, and what those specific areas of China's interests are?
No, I don't think so. I think CPEC is a mutual interest of both the countries. When CPEC, the work on CPEC began, it was actually a mutual project of mutual interest. And plus, it's, I think, gift by China for the friendship, long-standing friendship that we have with China. So there are, when we say China will have an edge, China will have an advantage of a closer, a shorter route to Middle East, to Europe, to maybe other parts of the world. So this is very, very true. China may, when we expect industrialization phase, China relocates its industries, and it will also serve Chinese interest. Definitely, I think the gains are on both sides. We will definitely gain because we need some economic activity in our country, and the industry, exports, and the business in Pakistan, the flourishing of business in Pakistan can help us do that. But definitely, I believe Chinese also have interest, and that is why they look for early completion of this project. And in fact, they have also to showcase this CPEC project as a pilot project of Belt and Road Initiative. That is very important because this is the project that they would like to tell the world, look, we have done it, and we have done it for the regional connectivity, we have done it for the regions that we aim, we have done it for the developing world that we want to help. So there are many purposes behind China pushing with the CPEC, and of course Pakistan will stand to benefit from the project because I think it's an historical movement for Pakistan. It's an historic opportunity for Pakistan to carry out CPEC and take benefit, and I think it has potential to change the economic landscape of Pakistan.
So, Dr. Talat, Shabbir, what I understand from this comprehensive elaboration they've just done, that it is a win-win situation for both the countries, Pakistan and China.
Yes, of course. I think CPEC is a win-win situation for both the countries, CPEC. And I think the third term of President Xi Jinping, during his two previous terms, he has been, stressing on common destiny, shared future. I think that is the concept, that is the philosophy that is at the heart of this concept. And I think if President Xi Jinping looks at this project from the perspective of shared future and common interests, I think that would be a great idea. And I think China would...
Dr. Talat, Shabbir, beg your pardon for the interruption. One last question from you. How crucial is this security in Pakistan so that the projects related to CPEC are safe and secure, and the Chinese nationals are also secure? Because Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in his op-ed has said that it remains to be the priority, the safety and the security of the Chinese nationals working in Pakistan.
Yes, I think that's the most important factor. As we talk, it's something which is very, understandable. That if you want investors to come to this country, if you want industries to relocate here, you have to create enabling environment for people coming here to invest. And the security is the most important thing. We have recently been to Gwadar port, and I have seen that if we don't deal with the security issue well, so I think we'll have problems. Security is the most important thing that not only Chinese, but any investor coming to Pakistan would expect us to create a secure and enabling environment for anybody, working in Pakistan, anybody investing in Pakistan, anybody doing business with us. This is the most important. And I think relevant institutions are also alert to the fact that it is very important that we create a kind of secure environment in Pakistan, whereby we expect investors and other businesses from other countries to relocate to Pakistan. This is the most important thing.
Right, Dr. Talat Shabbir, Director, China-Pakistan Studies Center, Institute of Strategic Studies in Islamabad. Thank you very much for your time at Views on News. We really appreciate that. Now, Mr. Sardar, when we talk about the security environment, as we already were discussing, that security is very important. The safety and the security of the Chinese nationals remains to be the top priority for the current government. It had been the priority of the other governments also. Now, there had been certain incidents regarding the CPEC projects, and when we specifically talk about the attack on a bus of Chinese engineers working for Dasu hydropower project, clearly the foreign elements, the nexus of RAW and NDS was established and found in that particular attack. Yep. How worrisome is this particular project for the said agencies and the respective countries?
Okay, so the first question one should ask is why did it happen? And you can speculate on various reasons, but the bottom line is any kind of economic cooperation that Pakistan does in this region is not liked by certain countries, and they intend to do something to spoil the project. When we talk about Dasu, let's not forget what happened at the University of Karachi. Exactly. Let's not forget what happened at the
number of incidents.
Exactly, at the consulate in Karachi, Chinese consulate in Karachi. So when you look at the anatomy of violence, when you sort of break it up, there's actually a pattern to it. Why are they doing it? They're doing it because it is not in their interest. This is not a mistake. Somebody doesn't just get up and go in a particular direction. These things are sponsored, as you said very rightly, and they are done with a particular aim of causing harm, damage and creating statistics. That's what's happened. Pakistan has dealt with these things very efficiently, but we also need to realize one thing, and I think we were very clear about that, that there can be no tolerance for this. The sooner we show the world, which we have, by the way, but we don't talk about it. I mean, I find that very surprising.
Mr. Sardar,
Yeah.
I beg to contest this particular
Yeah.
observation by you. Pakistan had been contesting this particular thing on the international level, especially after Kulbhushan Yadav, an Indian Navy serving commander, was found in espionage and sabotage activities over here. And he confessed that his activities were involved in sabotaging the CPAC in particular. So he confessed to it, he was given the death sentence, and then the case went into ICJ. Pakistan had been giving back-to-back dossiers to the United Nations Secretary General. So Pakistan had been consistently highlighting this issue. at the
Certainly, what I
international
meant was to be more visual about it. That's all I meant. We need to be more visual about it so that those who are thinking of something, they see deterrence to it. Because you cannot allow any party, what Kulbhushan Yadav was doing, absolutely right. He was causing trouble in our country. We have him. And India is like totally mum about it. The point is, we have to set more examples. And we are in the process. We're taking things very seriously, we're taking things very aggressively, and we realize the sanctity of security and stability. All the projects along the CPEC and elsewhere, it's not just CPEC, they need to be secured. There has to be zero tolerance, which Pakistan is very close to. There is zero tolerance. As one thing which we have to notice, if you look at the attacks, have you noticed how most of the attacks end up not being very successful? Some have been successful, but most have not been. We actually have the statistics. So Pakistan is doing something right, pushing back, fixing things. What I mean to say is we need to do it more visually so that those who think of doing something, there's a deterrence to that concept.
Right. Ms. Naela, your view regarding Pakistan sensitizing the international community, especially the United Nations, and there is a very clear manifestation of the subversive activities, especially when it comes to India. And then when we talk about this Dasu hydropower project, by the authorities, it was established clearly the Afghan soil was used to carry out that attack against Pakistan, and that actually was a target to destabilize that relationship between Pakistan and China.
No, you're very right. Pakistan, as you correctly pointed out, has been very articulate in telling international community, those responsible for all these terrorist attacks in Pakistan. We have also been very articulate in telling the world that in the war against terror, how many sacrifices were made by Pakistan, and yet there are elements that are supporting nefarious activities in Pakistan, and all those quarters have been cautioned that they cannot continue in this way. CPEC is a very important project for Pakistan and China. It is part of BRI, but they are converting it into an ideological warfare by creating a disruption in the implementation of these projects in Pakistan, because they want to say, oh, we are from a different ideology. But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to their interests, their ideology is the same. So it is only to hurt Pakistan and to hurt our relations with China. And Alhamdulillah, both the countries are very clear on their direction of working together, of addressing these issues. Security is imperative for any foreign investor, particularly Chinese investors, Chinese engineers, Chinese nationals who come to Pakistan, because we are creating the bridge between people of our two countries, and that needs to be reinforced by ensuring security. As far as international fora are concerned, we have been vocal about it. We have shown the world where these activities are sponsored from.
So we have shown the world, so what should the world be doing? Because as Mr. Xi Jinping says, that there should be global action, response and solidarity.
Yes.
So when we, how can the world make such type of countries or such elements that include India to understand the economic dividends that would actually alleviate many people in the region out of poverty and improve their livelihoods?
True, but you see, when it comes to India, you have to bear in mind that the government there is pursuing Hindutva. It has a very strong ideological political agenda, for which, look at what they are doing in Kashmir. We have been telling the world, but they had total blackout as far as international media was concerned. They were not allowed to go to this, you know, the largest prison that they have converted that beautiful valley into, and the regulations and rules that they have changed. China and Pakistan are on the same page as far as Kashmir is concerned. We want a peaceful negotiated settlement of Kashmir in the light of UN Security Council resolutions. Until these issues are addressed seriously through meaningful dialogue, with the support of international community, they will be used by nefarious elements, even non-state actors, to create those cleavages which may be beneficial to them in the short term, but like you said, these projects are for humanity. It's not just Pakistan or just China. Everybody will benefit from it. The whole South Asian region will benefit from it. BRI goes even to Africa, the countries that are part of it. It will benefit so many continents. It goes across continents. So the vision of Chinese leadership and Pakistani leadership is to have a relationship that is not just bilateral but benefits the world. But will the world wake up to it? It depends on how those countries define their interests.
So what about Afghanistan in particular? After the Kabul takeover by the Taliban, Afghanistan is faced with a dire economic crisis. Now this particular CPAC project, or when we talk about BRI, the authorities from Chinese side, also from Pakistan, they've invited the other partners to join in as well. Do you think there could be a will when we talk about the interim Afghan government to join hands and understand the economic dividends out of this BRI and CPAC?
I think the Afghans you know, are very cognizant of the benefits they are going to accrue, and they have welcomed the Chinese. And I think there are negotiations going on between the Chinese and the Talibans, as well as other regional countries. Of course, Pakistan, when it came to recognizing Talibans, we had taken the decision that we will do it collectively as a regional decision until they prove that they are going to fulfill their commitments
that they made in the Doha peace deal. Mr. Sardar, how to bring the miseries or alleviate the people of Afghanistan from their miseries, especially when it comes to their economic miseries, and making them part of such gigantic projects such as CPAC and BRI, of course.
Sure. CPAC, if we just go back in history, is basically the new, a modern day version of the Silk Route. So the Afghan people are actually, even their ancestors, and were quite familiar with this regional trade. Now, Afghanistan, whether Afghanistan can sort of institutionalize the following point or not, Afghanistan is extremely intimately linked to Pakistan. And Pakistan, I think, doesn't have any problems with Afghanistan being linked to other countries, but it's good to have cooperation between the two countries. Now, recently their trade, their exports to Pakistan increased, which basically means that they are trading more with Pakistan. When it comes to poverty alleviation, we have to understand that Afghanistan is going through a very stiff transition right now. And there is a financial blockage of activity in Afghanistan, which causes a lot of, let's just say, transactional issues. Now, that can be taken care of through barter, institutionalized barter. That's a separate issue. But your question is, how do we alleviate this issue, and how do we sort of link it with, let's say, CPEC? I personally think, and from what I've been able to gather, the stage is set for that link. Nothing new needs to be done. We just need to build up the transshipment agreements. We need to open up more borders. We need to institutionalize trade, and we need to sort of take care of the gray markets. That will basically streamline the funds into Pakistan and into Afghanistan for both countries, because we have to look at mutual benefit. You don't, and that's how basically.
Mr. Sardar, one last, very briefly, please. We are short of time. What areas, specific areas, do you think Pakistan and China can specifically cooperate in order to enhance their bilateral trade volume in particular? Because in the first quarter of this fiscal year 2023, we have seen it has declined from the previous one.
Agriculture. We have to focus on agriculture immediately, and we have to focus on refined products such as textile, which are being consumed in China.
Right. Thank you very much for being on the show, Mr. Faheem Sardar, Senior Policy Specialist from Strategic Policy Planning Cell. We really appreciate for you being here, and Ms. Naela Chohan, former ambassador. Thank you very much for your time, also for being at Views on News. Now, this particular visit by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is of utmost significance when it comes to the bilateral relationship between Pakistan and China. Now, Prime Minister has also said that China was Pakistan's largest trade and investment partner, and Pakistan wants to expand these ties by making an optimal use of the second phase of China-Pakistan free trade agreement, enhance the industrial cooperation as well. And this particular investment opportunities that Pakistan actually offer to the Chinese companies include in the areas of industry, agriculture, modernization, infrastructure, green energy, and digital economy as well. So a lot is expected from this particular visit by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to China. With this note, we come to the end of today's Views on News. Until the next one, take good care of yourselves.